Hey everyone, Laurel here, Minnesota, Zone 5A. I'm just going to do an update garden tour. I haven't even been out in the garden this morning to see what's going on. We've just had a deluge of rain for the last week. It's been really annoying, just tons and tons of rain. And here in the Twin Cities, we didn't even get the worst of it. Tuesday, northern Minnesota, Duluth area, some places got 7 inches of rain in a day. That's like tropical storm levels of rainfall, flooding everywhere. The videos coming out of there are kind of crazy. And later in the week, I think southern Minnesota got hit pretty hard too. But man, it's been a lot. Everything is completely saturated. The good news is I haven't had to really water anything. But I also worry about some things rotting, like the caladium bulbs that I planted in my pots. I do see red flash over here starting to poke up from this pot. Also, I just got a new camera set up, so bear with me as I learn it. But I bought this little begonia too. I just couldn't resist. Such pretty colors. Bossa Nova Night Fever Papaya Begonia. I love the dark foliage with that kind of peachy bloom. Some of the containers that are under shelter are okay. I do see some caladiums poking up over here too. Nothing yet from the spicy lizard. But there's, I think this one is gingerland coming up. More gingerland poking through here. Those were already kind of sprouting. The phlox is all weighed down. And this one, because it's stressed and in a plant can, actually this would be a good one to split because it doesn't need to be planted as one. I could easily split it into 2 or 3 plants, but the phlox out in the yard is also pretty weighed down. I got some Overgrown calamagrostis grass. I have a plan for that. This echinacea, I think I know what I'm going to do with it. Beautiful. We're going to test out the focus on this camera here, and it's hard for me to see the screen right now. Beautiful calibrachoa. I mean, everything's looking good in the pot, so I'm pleased about that. It's been super humid too. Pretty unpleasant to work in. I did a tour last Sunday, and I worked in the shade and still was just dripping sweat. I mean, it was like South Louisiana. That is what it felt like. I've been to South Louisiana many times in June, and it is not my favorite climate. I'll just say that. A little too moist for me. But, I mean, you know, who doesn't want a Minnesota winter plus a South Louisiana summer, right? Isn't that the climate we all want? No. Yeah, things still looking great. All of this stuff is destined to go in the ground, but the ground is a mud pit everywhere. Has been since last weekend. I couldn't plant last weekend either. Check out this stuff over here. Grass needs to be mowed again. Grass is growing like gangbusters. Pretty crazy. I'm going to have to trim more on the dogwood. It's super weighed down. I'm going to have to trim this. What do I want to say? Hibiscus. Trim that honeysuckle as well. This phlox is all weighed down from the rain. Lamb's ear is in full bloom. I might trim this one early too. This is Tiny Wine 9-bark, and it is massive. The tags in plant cans often give the mature size at about 5 to 10 years. That doesn't mean things won't keep growing or get much bigger if they're happy. So both of these shrubs evidently love where they're planted. Oh, I see a weed coming up right behind it too. And get, I mean, easily twice as big as what the tag says. So just beware when you're planting things. If they like the conditions they're in, they're going to get huge. Looks like the penstemon popped back up. The liatris is starting to put up bloom stalks, kind of right behind the penstemon there. And we've got raindrops on the lady's mantle. It has kind of, in the You can see kind of in the sun, the lamb's ear too. Kind of shimmery with all the moisture on it. We had a lower chance of rain yesterday. It was kind of supposed to be cloudy and humid all day and start drying out. And so I was getting stuff done indoors. Oh, blooms started to form here. I think this is a Rudbeckia chunk. I'm waiting for it to bloom, but I've got a bloom about to open over here. Yeah, it was maybe, they were saying like 40 to 50% chance of passing showers. So I was indoors getting stuff done. Sorry for, there's a siren. I'll wait till they pass. Sounds of the city. This shiny shoes coleus is being taken over. It doesn't grow as fast as the plectranthus, the silver shield plectranthus. So probably dig that out and move it and just leave the plectranthus as sort of the centerpiece. Because I want to see the coleus too, so I'll find somewhere else to feature it. All of these volunteers coming through the fence. Most years I only have to trim those a couple times. This year it's probably going to be every couple weeks if we keep getting rain like this. But everything's looking pretty lush and full. But yeah, I was indoors yesterday. This elderberry's weighed down. I did trim some branches back. It still has its berries, so I love those bright berries. It's a native shrub. And then the clematis is just super full of blooms right now. I cut back some of the elderberry branches that were encroaching on the clematis, but it is kind of growing into the elderberry too, which is what clematis do. They often are planted. You can plant them with shrubs and then they'll kind of ramble up the shrub. They won't hurt it or choke it out. So just letting it do what it wants. But as I was indoors doing laundry, meal prepping, etc., basically a monsoon started outside. I mean, it was just a deluge. It was absolutely pouring. It was so loud I thought maybe it was hailing because it was hitting the roof so hard. But no, it was just an absolute downpour. And it lasted a while too. It wasn't like one of those quick 5 minutes of pouring and then it sprinkles again. This was like pouring for a while. So I was annoyed. I probably said something like, "Are you freaking kidding me? More rain?" And then yesterday evening, I walked out in the garden. I was able to harvest lettuce in the morning, but everything is just squishy. I mean, it was like squish, squish, squish walking through. So not a fan of that. Oh, there's the neighbor dog scratching his back in the grass. Trevi Fountain lungwort looking good. There was some early slug damage. I put down some bait and I haven't seen any more damage from it. I'm debating, we've got a little seedling in here. My first lungwort seedling. So I'm debating if I want to move that or just let it get bigger first. I mean, eventually I'll move it if it survives. Everything back here looking good. I still have this one raised bed panel here kind of choking out some of the grass. I don't know when I'm going to get time to get rid of this grass in here and mulch over. Hopefully I can plant. I have that arbovita. Oh, there's a cardinal on the feeder. Probably can't see it. Male cardinal. There are a few pairs that live around here and visit our feeders regularly. I have an arbovita DeGroot spire that I'm going to plant in that little space. I got it on clearance at Gerton's, but especially on this hill, you can see the weeds are just going crazy too. But on this hill, it's extra soggy because all the water runs down. I'm thankful that we live on a slope, on a hill. We're not at the top of the hill, but we're close to the top of the hill or slope or whatever. Need to cut back this geranium, I can't ever remember the name. Biokovo, that's it. Biokovo geranium. Yeah, so we don't get flooding here. We don't get puddles. Sorry, that's the neighbor dog barking to get let inside, they take forever to let him in. He just barks and barks. They kind of ignore it. So sorry about that. But the grass gets real squishy. I have a lot of clay. The cats are at it again too. I can tell. These are the foxglove bloom stalks. The blooms were spent. I was going to collect seed, but there's not really space for them to reseed in here, so I didn't want them to reseed in this area. But I came out and all the bloom stalks had been crushed. There were leaves strewn about everywhere, leaves in the grass. This is a chunk of the this plant, the Veronica, that was ripped out and in the grass. And I was hearing the cats meowing real loud that morning, and I think they ripped through here. These two ageratum got smashed, just crushed down. These stems are broken. This one too, there's a piece of the stem laying on the ground there by that heucherella. More pieces of stem strewn about over here. This was self-seeded, but this echinacea, it's a white echinacea, is all broken off and crushed. And then this was all broken and crushed back here too. This start of this echinacea and kind of under the hostas. So I don't know what they were doing, but they tore through the garden, broke a bunch of stuff. Luckily, it's early in the season, so I can cut this back and it should flush out again. Pretty soon, plants will start going on clearance, so if it doesn't look good, I can replace it with a clearance plant. Man, these poor heuchera are just really struggling. Otherwise, things look good. The Hakanakloa is really happy. Oh, good. They just let him in. Okay. No more barking. This Brunnera is really big and lush. I started picking off the seed heads. I need to be better about keeping this contained. It's not Brunnera, ajuga. It's chocolate chip ajuga, which spreads slower than other varieties, but all ajuga spreads very readily. It is very easy to pull up. It has very shallow roots. You can keep the runners cut back, but it does take some maintenance. The Joylene Nicole daylilies are starting to put up buds. There's another couple more self-seeded echinacea in there. The barberries looking nice and bright, and this is a helenium coming up that was planted last year. These little guys over here started to bloom. So despite the crazy rain, everything's looking good. I've got the pink blooms just starting to open here on the Monarda, the bee balm. That was an unlabeled clearance plant. I'm pretty sure it's Bubblegum Blast, because that is the hot pink variety Gertens was selling the year that I bought it on clearance, missing its tag. The only hot pink variety they had. The Millennium Allium are starting to put up their bloom heads there. Those won't bloom for a while, although everything's kind of early this year. The Perfect something per Nepeta is looking good. I did deadhead the geraniums. Caradonna salvia now back there is starting to go over. I leave it for a while because it still has color. Even though the blooms are spent, it still has some color. When that starts to kind of turn brownish, then I'll go back and cut those. And then these echinacea are looking fabulous this year, and they are starting to put up their blooms. So excited to see that. We've got the Drops of Jupiter ornamental oregano. I think I'm definitely going to have to size control these. Actually, I should probably clip them back right now. Maybe that big one. So that one's 1 year older than these other two. And I think next year I'll definitely have to split that one, or maybe in the fall. You can see one little bloom on the echinacea down there. It's kind of watermelon colored. See it through the leaf. It's like a little short bloom. And this, even with all the rain, this salvia didn't split open. This is called Sensation Sky Blue, I think. Salvia. I got it on clearance a few years back. I did move it last year. It was plant because I wanted to plant more of these oregano. So I've scooted it over, but still full of bloom, not splitting. even with all the downpour we had. And then this Brunnera is looking really good. This one is struggling even more. I'm pretty sure it probably sunk over the winter with the freeze-thaw cycle. I'm thinking I'm going to have to, I might try, with all the rain though, it's just a mud pit. Everywhere is a mud pit. But I might try and raise it up, put a little topsoil or something at the bottom of the hole. I might even bump it up towards the hydrangea a little bit so it's a little higher on the slope. But there are some low points where water kind of gathers and puddles in these areas. Shade garden is looking fantastic. Absolutely fabulous. We've got a couple Jack Frost Brunnera. These are what is going on with my raspberry splash lungwort this year. The leaves are kind of curling like this. Oh, and I see some slug damage. I have to put down bait. Some leaves look great, others are curling, so I don't know what the deal is. Maybe that was early damage, you know, it's outgrowing it. But lots of weeds, ferns. That lady fern is really, a lot of things are leaping. I planted a lot of these gardens 2-3 years ago, and so now they're really leaping. First year they sleep, second year they creep, third year they leap, especially with the rain. These white astilbe started opening up. I love those. They're just so ethereal. We've got one little clematis bloom there. The other one's over on this side, kind of. Oh no, there's another. This is still establishing. It's only, I planted it, I think, maybe 2 years ago. The Maggie Dahlia astilbe, full of bloom buds. These really suffered. I moved them last year as a last resort because they were not going to survive. And I'm glad I did, because with the they were in the shade of the spruce trees, and now that the spruce trees are gone, they would be in a lot more sun. This Brunnera is huge. This is a variegated Brunnera. Massive leaves. Another Alexandria down there, that pretty white color. If I burn them, this one is not putting out blooms, and I can tell. It is the pollinator for this. Oh, look at this. Firelight hydrangeas budding up. It is the pollinator for this. One is all that glitters, one is all that glows. If I burn them, this one is blooming, but this one was also planted a year prior to the other one. So when they bloom at the same time, they can pollinate each other, and then you get pretty blue berries on them. But this one's blooming, the other one's not, so I won't get berries this year. But I'm happy. This one really hasn't bloomed before, so I'm really happy to see the bloom, but there's been so much stress with drought since it was planted. Otherwise, everything else is looking pretty good. I did pop Velveteen Coleus down in here to kind of fill in next to the Sun King Aurelia. We've got more astilbe in the back. I'm not going to step over there, but putting out blooms. This sageleaf willow has really suffered, but this year it is super happy. Willows like a lot of moisture. So that one's recovering well. Got just a couple blooms. I need to cut this back. This back to the fuchsia salvia. Nepeta still going strong. And then the yarrow. That was unlabeled. I think it might be paprika. I'm not positive, but just I got it at Garten's. I just knew it was yarrow. It wasn't blooming, so I didn't even know what color it would be. I'm glad it was that deep pink, though. It's really pretty. But looking at their varieties of yarrow, that kind of looks like the matches. And way back in the corner, let me test out. Back, you can see those pink blooms. Those are the Rhineland, I think, astilbe blooming pink. Siberian iris, also really happy. They like a ton of moisture. So that's great. Vegetable garden still looking good. Not a great year for tomatoes. Or I mean peppers. I'm not growing tomatoes this year. We've got these herbs look nice. We've got Bergarten sage and a couple of different kinds of rosemary. Blooms on the Angelina sedum. Garlic's looking good. I cut all the scapes. Carrots looking good. This is successfully keeping the cats out. The zucchini is massive. I'm probably going to cut some leaves to uncover the pepper plants there. So those are about the only 2 peppers that are any size on them. But I'm going to have tons of zucchini, and I eat a lot of zucchini and peppers. Those are my main vegetables that I eat every single week, so I'm okay with that. Still lots of strawberries coming up. This is Seascape, so it's an ever-bearing variety. I did plant the Angel Face Blue Angelonia in there, and I think my zinnia seedlings are big enough now that I can pop them in around the Angelonia. I just wanted them to get some size on them first, especially with all the rain coming in. But beans coming up, I'll pop some steaks in those. Garlic, the leaves are starting to brown, but we're weeks out yet from harvest. So this is the issue that's been, or the area that's been bugging me, but I can't really do anything about it because of the rain. I think I should be able to get some of these planted today. All of these dahlias need to go in the ground. I also have cosmos seedlings. I need to transplant some of the cosmos that came up right next to this azalea. But, okay, sorry for the pause. Camera shut down. I had to go figure out. Still figuring it out. Anyway, these cosmos are getting pretty big, but they can't all grow around the azalea. Probably need to clip this aster one more time. Clip it back so it blooms in the fall. The hibiscus, very, very happy. These love moisture and rain. The Barbara Harrington clematis started opening. And I will be figuring out, I don't know if I should maybe if I could tie strings to the taller on the shed, but it needs a bigger trellis. It can climb all the way up to the roof, but this trellis, so it folds over itself, and then we don't get to see the full glory of the blooms. But this one is well established. Beautiful pink color. We've got the Shenandoah, 2 Shenandoah grasses here, some echinacea, self-seeded. The snapdragons over there started opening. I'm hoping I can get into the flower bed and cut back those allium before they start seeding everywhere. This is the Summerific Holy Grail hibiscus from Proven Winners. So red blooms, but it's a cool tone red, so almost more pinkish. Thought I was standing on a... And this Coreopsis started to bloom too. I think this one is a grape. Again, it was unlabeled, but it looks just like Zagreb, and that is what the store sold. And the allium blooms within a week. We'll probably start putting on color, the drumstick allium. That patch is a few years old. It's spreading itself, but very, very slowly. So I had a milkweed in here, but it didn't. Oh, it did. I see one little stem, but a echinacea seeded itself right on top of the milkweed. I thought it had died. I didn't see any signs of it coming up in the spring. I thought the drought got it. That's a little lime hydrangea next to the clematis. That one is really shooting up this year. It is getting big. So it's evidently really happy. And then this is the Proven Winners Luminary Opalescence Phlox, opening its first blooms here. Really fragrant blooms too, but you can see all the yellowing. It is not liking all this moisture. This variety is very mildew resistant. I haven't had issues with it at all until this year, but I'm seeing that yellowing is signs of mildew. So nothing much I can do. We'll just see how it does. The Daisy May, Shasta Daisy, started opening those nice bright cheerful flowers. That's doing great. This daylily is Mighty Chestnut starting to put up blooms. I'll have to move. These are all self-seeded 4 o'clocks. So I'll be moving those around, filling in the holes in this garden. I'm really excited for the blooms on this daylily South Seas. That is my favorite. Really, really beautiful. These sedum are looking good. I might have to reconfigure this because the daylilies are getting massive. Anna's Magic Ball, Arbovita looking nice. And then this is the Noblesse Yarrow that has started to open, and it'll just bloom like this all summer long. These cute little white poofy blooms. And I'll cut it back a few times. I'll deadhead it, and I'll just keep sending up new blooms. So happy about that. I'm kind of bummed. This Weigella was in its full glory last weekend, and then it just poured for a week. So all the blooms got knocked off. I couldn't even really get out here to enjoy it because it was too rainy and wet. So that's a bummer. But the rose is looking magnificent. I mean, look at this like bloom. Look how many blooms are on this bloom head. And you can see it kind of gets that orange and yellow and then ages to kind of a pinky peach. This is the peach drift rose. There's a honeybee. Really, really gorgeous. Yeah, so that Weigella, I'll come and trim it back because it's getting, I was just letting it recover. It was stressed, it's a clearance plant when I first bought it, so I haven't really trimmed it other than dead branches. But now it's getting big and it's healthy, so I can start shaping it up. That's a night embers sedum. Those other three that I just passed are also night embers. And then that's a big mystery hosta way in the back, that huge hosta. I moved it because I planned where it was. There's kind of a hole there, which was actually a puddle yesterday, on to the left side of the downspout. But that's where it was. Did great. It can take a lot of sun. I can see it is getting a little bit scorched on its leaves, but I don't think it will for long. There's also more sun in the afternoon here with the spruce trees gone, but I'll be planting an upright blue juniper in that space very soon. And so not this year, but in future years, as the juniper gets bigger, it will shade that hosta a little bit more. And I like the bold texture back there, especially with all the finer textured leaves in this area. That nice bold leaf makes for a really nice contrast. The blue star Amsonia is still blooming. Beautiful lavender blue blooms. Kind of going over now, almost done. But the After 8 lily back here, it's kind of like a mini stargazer, really fragrant. That's putting on some buds. Plenty of, I'm not going to plant any more lilies because those lily beetles, you can see the damage they do. And I have a regular stargazer lily that's just eaten to bits. This is Solidago, dwarf goldenrod, these three here. Really glad I was able to put plant supports around those because those would probably be split open soon too with all this rain. And then I have two echinacea here. This one's a little bit further ahead. And then this phlox also kind of split open. This is the Proven Winners opening act. Oh, I forget the names again. Pure Romance or something like that. But that got pretty heavily knocked down. I have some of those curved supports that I might just put on the front just to keep it off the grass. Cat's Pajamas Nepeta, almost ready to be trimmed back. Doing really good. This is a Tor Birchleaf Spirea. This is the happiest it has ever been. Look at all that new growth. Another one that it stayed small and got fungal disease for a few years, and then I moved it, and now it's in its second year of recovery, and it is just going crazy. Spirea is one that blooms on old wood. So the blooms this year were formed last year, so they're blooming on last year's growth. Lilacs are the same, viburnum, Weigella. So if you trim it, you want to trim it back right after its blooms are done, like these are done on this Spirea. So if I wanted to shape it, I would do it now, which I might, so that it can form new buds for next year, because next year it'll bloom on this year's growth. So you don't ever want to trim those in the fall or the spring before they bloom, unless you are willing to sacrifice those blooms. This one is really leaping too. This is the Limelight Prime Hydrangea. I'm going to transplant it about where that pot is. Once the ground, if the ground ever dries out enough, if we get enough dry weather. I just put this together. This is a Persian Shield. There's a rosemary in here. And then a couple Super Cal or Pet Koa. They're like a cross between a Caliber Koa and a Petunia. And they kind of take the best aspects of both and combine them. I've been growing these for a number of years, but they're really gaining popularity. They used to be hard to find, but now I can find them all over the place. So this is my favorite. I've been growing this forever. Super Cal Neon Rose. I love that neon pink with the bright yellow throat. And then this, I'm forgetting the name, Snowdrift or something, kind of a white with the pink throat. Those could be trimmed back too, and they'll flush out a little bit fuller. Heucherella in here. Sweet tea, looking really pretty. Probably can trim back. These are like native tulips. There's a whole bunch of kind of dwarf stuff and a bunch of weeds. And then this is a aronia. Just a few berries, chokeberry it's called. Planted that last year and it was real small. So I'll give things a couple years where I won't mess with it too much. Just to establish, and then I'll start shaping it into what I want. And then that's a volunteer salvia back there. The name I've forgotten long ago. I had started seeds that were supposed to be annual, but it kept coming back. So the original plant I dug out, split into a couple pieces and gave to friends, and then this one's a volunteer that self-seeded. So we'll let that go for this year. But probably can't stay there. So anyway, a little bit of an update garden tour. Sun's kind of going in and out of the clouds here. A little bit of a mess to clean up, but all in all, considering all the rain we got, I think we're not doing too bad. A little bit of cleanup to do. We should have a drier week this week. I don't think there's a real big chance of rain until Friday. Man, is it a rainy year, though. We haven't had that in a few years, so I guess it's good recovery. But it just makes it hard to work, especially when you need to dig in the ground. And the ground is mud. But I'm thankful I don't have flooding. I don't have puddles and pools of water. It all drains pretty fast, so I'm pretty lucky. This Veronica, Giles Van Hees, is starting to bloom its pink blooms. Much happier here than it was. Has a lot more space. Again, hopefully I can cut out an edge and start shaping this garden bed and at least take over the grass back here. I do have some things that I need to plant in this area too, so we'll see. So I'll leave you with that. Probably do a front yard tour separately. Not much really has changed though in the last week. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and please subscribe.